Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Town Council meeting of June 25th. We apologize. We postponed our regular meeting from last night, and it was due to the Oilers hockey game. I'll tell you that right up front. We were all very excited to watch the Oilers, and didn't work out the best, but they had a good season. So, welcome. I call this meeting to order at 7:03, and I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Warbaugh makes the motion. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next, the approval of the minutes of our last meeting. I'll look for a motion for that. Councillor Curtis, any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. We have no delegation tonight, but we do have some correspondence. So go right ahead, CAO Ling.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So the first item of correspondence is from the Honourable Rick McIver, Minister of Municipal Affairs. Dear Chief Elected Officials, the Government of Alberta administers federal funding through the Canadian Community Building Fund, CCBF, to provide Alberta communities with flexible capital funding to invest in local infrastructure priorities. As you may be aware, the Canada-Alberta Agreement for CCBF for the 2014 to 2024 expired on March 31st, 2024. The Alberta government is in active negotiations with the Government of Canada on a 10-year renewal agreement that will cover the 2024 to 2034 period. The Government of Canada has sent a draft renewal agreement to Alberta late in 2023, and the agreement has several aspects that are concerning for Alberta and for local governments. As a result, we are standing up for the interests of Alberta in negotiations and doing our utmost to ensure funding continues to flow to local governments with as much flexibility as possible to address local priorities with unnecessary administrative burdens. As these negotiations are ongoing, there may be delays in the 2024 program, including the notification of allocation amounts and timing of payment to local governments. As discussions with the federal government continue, we are working with the municipal associations to ensure the Alberta government understands the perspective of local governments. We will continue to advocate for your interests and the interests of the province, and I will provide more information on the signing of the agreement as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding and patience during this renewal process. Sincerely, Rick McIver.
Okay, thank you. Take a motion to receive and file. Councillor Rudick makes the motion. Any discussion? Again, we're not sure why they took over the negotiations. I guess they're just trying to make it a lot easier for municipalities to receive a check. So, there's no other comments. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next one again from Minister McIver.
Okay, again from this one is Dear Mayor McPhee, thank you for your letter of May 14th, 2024 regarding Alberta's introduction of Bill 20, the Municipal Affairs Statute Amendment Act 2024. I'm pleased to provide you with the following information about this important legislation. As you're aware, Bill 20 recently passed and will modify two key pieces of legislation for Alberta municipalities, the Municipal Government Act, the MGA, and the Local Authorities Election Act, LAEA. Bill 20 will help municipalities accelerate housing development, strengthen provincial oversight, and update the rules for local elections and locally elected officials. I realize there has been much misinformation about the contents and the intent of this bill, and I am pleased to respond. Under Canada's Constitution, there are two levels of government that are defined, provincial and federal. All municipal matters fall under provincial jurisdiction. The Government of Alberta has delegated significant authority to local elected municipal governments under the MGA to make decisions of a local nature on behalf of their residents. This said, all municipal jurisdictions are subject to provincial legislation and authority. Through the powers in the Constitution and the MGA, the provincial government has always had the ability to dismiss a councillor, and it's a process that is not taken lightly. As you are may be aware, I recently made a decision to dismiss a mayor and several councillors. More information on that situation is available at www.alberta.ca, Chestermere Municipal Inspection. The process was done through a municipal inspection and ministerial order. While this process may be appropriate for most cases, there may be situations that require expedited processes as outlined in Bill 20. I strongly believe in local decision-making, but like all government, municipalities must focus on matters within their delegated responsibilities when making their decisions. Similarly, the province's authority to repeal or amend bylaws is not new. The MGA provides Cabinet the ability to intervene in planning and development bylaws. However, this ability has never been used. In 2022, the government introduced Bill 4, which amended the MGA to repeal bylaws related to face mask mandates in the city of Edmonton. This was an example of a municipal bylaw that was contrary to provincial public health advice. The changes in Bill 20 will enable government to repeal bylaws through a more expedited process. However, it remains that this would only be used in rare circumstances. On May 23rd, I tabled additional amendments to further clarify the intent of this bill. Excuse me. The amendments can be found at the website. I encourage you to review the bill with amendments directly for more information on the contents of Bill 20. Bill 20 will remain the municipal. Let's try this again. Bill 20 will maintain the municipal ability to govern affairs within local jurisdiction, while allowing Cabinet to step in when municipal bylaw crosses into provincial jurisdiction. This will ensure municipal councils remain focused on municipal issues that their constituents elected them to address. Cabinet authority to intervene in municipal bylaws will be considered a last resort. I anticipate that this power will be used very rarely, if ever. In addition, the updates to the MGA and the LAEA will enhance transparency and ensure that local elected officials are held accountable to the Albertans they represent. We are strengthening public trust in local elections by eliminating the use of electronic tabulators. It is important for Albertans to feel they can trust the methods and results of local elections, and requiring all ballots to be counted by hand will give Albertans that assurance. Bill 20 will also enable the option to have criminal record checks as part of the candidate nomination package, and will allow local candidates to identify with local political parties without direct affiliation to provincial or federal parties. I have publicly stated my intention to implement the option to include municipal political party affiliation on ballots only in the cities of Edmonton and Calgary. Currently, municipal candidates are able to organize into political parties or slates without any rules around their organization. Adding rules around the political parties will increase transparency for electors. I will also note that no candidate will be required to join a political party. They will always remain voluntary and local. Bill 20 will also increase transparency in campaign financing. In 2018, the government at the time banned corporations and union donations to individual candidates. Rather than taking the big money out of local elections, donations shifted to third-party advertisers. For example, Calgary's Future raised $1.7 million to endorse 9 specific candidates who were elected in the 2021 municipal election. By enabling corporations and union donations at a cap of $5,000 per municipality, voters will have public records of the unions, corporations, and individuals supporting candidates. We are also introducing an expense cap for municipal campaigns to limit donations collected and keep local campaigns focused on the current election. Albertans deserve to have faith in their local governments, and Albertans expect municipal leaders to behave responsibly to reflect the interests and needs of the community. Occasionally, the provincial government is asked to look into the management of an Alberta municipality and the leadership of its elected officials. We always treat such requests with the due diligence they deserve. Albertans deserve a political government or provincial government that can respond promptly to extraordinary situations that occur within a municipality. Bill 20 also includes amendments to the MGA that will encourage housing development in municipalities. Affordable and attainable housing has become one of the most urgent concerns across the country, and the government of Alberta is unlocking options for municipalities to consider as they take local action to address housing affordability. The amendments to the MGA will create balance between appropriate engagement with the residents and stakeholders and prompt municipal planning and development decisions. This ensures that municipalities have greater flexibility to tackle their housing priorities while providing residents with the opportunity to have their say about development plans in their communities. This bill was informed by feedback. This bill was informed by feedback my ministry received from Albertans in 2021 to 2023. The result of the consultation surveys can be found at, and it lists the website. I appreciate your feedback and your participation in the discussion of this important piece of legislation. Alberta's government remains committed to fairness and due process and will continue working with local authorities to ensure Albertans have the effective local representation they deserve. Now that Bill 20 is passed, Municipal Affairs will be engaging with municipalities and stakeholders over the coming months to explain the changes Bill 20 will require at a local level and develop regulations as required. Thank you again for writing. Sincerely, Rick McIver.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion to receive and file. Okay, Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Any comments? Go ahead, Councillor Rowe, start us up.
I do appreciate some of the explanation. I think that some of it makes a lot of sense and it does line up with a lot of what they were saying. And certainly, I think that there is a need to define the lines of jurisdiction for what is federal to what is provincial, but also moving forward in this vein, I think that in fairness, we need to keep that in mind sometimes with our advocacy back to the province, because while they want to keep everybody in their lane, we also do not need then to be downloaded what would be provincial authorities. So I think that as this passes, we may need at times to remind them back that as jurisdiction is, this wouldn't be ours, and then they need to handle it. So I'll be watching those, I think, as future things get downloaded on the town.
Excellent. Okay, Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, that was sort of part of my comment too. I fully recognize that there's only two levels of government, that the federal and provincial, and the provinces kind of created municipalities. And I want to echo, the line I like is, I strongly believe in local decision-making, but like all governments, municipalities must focus on matters within their delegated responsibilities when making their decisions. And I think sometimes residents want us to go above and beyond that delegated responsibility. But the province needs to step up and actually define what their responsibilities are and fund them. And I think that's where we keep seeing so much of the problems in municipalities, is that, as was said, they like to keep downloading responsibilities to us that really aren't ours, but don't give any funding. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Rudick.
Ditto to what my colleague said. I think it's a curious argument that only looks at one side of the coin instead of having reflection on the actions of the provincial government that continually expects us to do more with less money, particularly when, what page is this of the letter? Page 3, at the top of page 3, referring to the fact that Albertans deserve to have faith in their local governments, and Alberta expect municipal leaders to behave responsibly to reflect the interests and needs of the community. Not only do I feel like that's not an accurate statement, that we always act with the best interests of our community and have the reflection of their interests and their needs, but there have been numerous studies that have actually demonstrated the fact that most people feel most comfortable and trust local government more than their federal and provincial counterparts. So this seems like a spurious argument thrown in here to provide reasons for taking a more authoritative approach to a lot of things that I feel like are not necessary. Particularly some of the issues that we had raised in our letter to the province. Listening to the debate that did not occur, I listened to all of the conversation around Bill 20. There was almost no debate. and the points that the government brought forward for the reasoning seems potentially unnecessary. But all that to say, it's going to be in place, so it'll be our job to make sure that the regulations are going to be reflecting our needs here.
Well, nowhere does Bill 20 say that they're gonna stand up and take responsibility for any funding that they're downloading on municipalities. The Bill 20 doesn't represent any of the negligent funding models that they're pushing down towards us. I'm very comfortable with the letter that the minister wrote here on some issues. He let us know why the campaign funding and what they did with it, when I was not really, until I read the letter, knew that how they were doing things with the special groups in Calgary, where nobody was taking accountability for funding, and now it's a little more transparent. And again, when it comes to the bylaws, I mean, they're saying that if it goes against the Constitution or the provincial policies, then they will step in. It's a little different than the previous UCP government that told us, make up your own mind on your facilities during COVID and stuff like that. So now, we don't have to do anything like that anymore. They'll mandate what our bylaws will look like for health issues, so it's gonna be good. We'll see. But I do appreciate him writing back, and I had a conversation with him last week. And although not all of it is understood, do I understand all of the reasons, but some of them are a little more clear with this letter, so. Is there any other comments? Then all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. You still got one more?
Yes, Your Worship. The next letter is from Lana Sims, the Executive Director of Valid Association. And it's, Dear Honorable Mayor and Council members, as requested, I am writing to request that the Town of Vegreville grant exemption from property taxes for the following list of properties recently purchased by Vegreville Association for Living in Dignity. We purchased these properties late in 2023 and didn't realize we missed the deadline to apply for tax exemption for these two duplexes. These are group homes occupied by persons with developmental disabilities and owned and operated by Valid, a local nonprofit organization serving Vegreville for 65 years. And then it goes on to list the addresses and the roll numbers of the duplexes. We thank you in advance for considering this request. Should you require further information or clarification, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Lana Sims.
All right, thank you. Take a motion to receive and file this letter. Councillor Lemko makes the motion. Go ahead.
I should just let everybody know that I sit as a board member for Valid, as a volunteer, so.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, you can start, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can appreciate what they're saying here, but I mean, it's, once again, we basically say if administration didn't make an error, they're saying that they missed the deadline for the tax exemption, so I don't know whether we should really be considering it. You know that phrase the politicians always use, a slippery slope, you know?
Heard of it. And again, we've never gone the other way, ever. And when it's not a mistake of the management or of the employees of the town of Vegreville, we've never given up once. So, do we know how many properties they have now that are tax exempt?
I would have to look into that and get back to you with that number.
Have we ever thought about putting a ceiling on it? I mean, if they keep taking properties off the tax roll, I mean, it just costs every other taxpayer money, right? I mean, let's say next year they buy 10 more. I mean, I know they're a nonprofit and they do very good work, and we've always had this in place.
I would have to check the regulations. I'm not up to speed on if there is a maximum allowance for the tax exemption. I can do some digging and I can find that out.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have nothing against Valid, they do very good work. But the fact that they keep taking properties off the tax roll, it just increases everybody else's taxes. And, you know, where does that end? So I guess the question comes down to, this is receive and file, but there's a request. Do you guys want to have some conversation about it before we say yes or no to this request? Or are you ready to vote on it? Go ahead, Councillor Lemko.
Okay, just for clarification, for the public that is watching this evening, historically, we have exempted these properties based on what bylaw or what law?
We do have a tax exemption bylaw, but it basically follows the MGA. There are set, for example, provincially, like healthcare, schools, those type of institutions are tax exempt from the province, but municipalities have the ability to do it if it offers a service in the community. So Valid has always claimed the exemption, like they have to apply. With our bylaw, they have to apply annually. And Valid, because they are doing a service in the community, has always been, met the criteria for this. So there are some regulations around who can have, like who can get tax exempt properties. And there, it is on our website, but as to the mayor's question, I have to consult with the regulation and the MGA to see if there is a maximum, or if it's possible to set a maximum.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously something that they forgot to do. And again, like Councillor Berry has stated so eloquently, we've seen this 50 times a year after taxes are due that somebody forgot. So, Councillor Bullock.
And just at the last council meeting, we turned down a business request that didn't apply for the small business tax exemption. So we didn't make an exception there. So just something I'm considering too, obviously.
Go ahead, Councillor Warwick.
For me, I think I would like just a little bit of time to think about this and potentially to ask some follow-up questions. One of the things that I'm wondering, and I'm not in any way suggesting changing what we have currently, but I wouldn't mind if there was an ability to find out from just not a huge go look project, but from a couple of similar neighboring communities, whether this is their practice and whether they as well have some sort of a ceiling. It just might help in making maybe not the decision there, but looking at whether we need to inform them of a ceiling or something in the future.
Okay, so you are asking that we need more information before we actually make a decision for this request?
I could make the decision, the request, but I'd still like more information for future to look at the bylaw.
Okay, so that's what we're asking for here. Like, is everybody else comfortable making a decision right now on this request? Okay, so, but for their next meeting, if we could look into how far we're willing to go on how many properties we're willing to take off the tax roll to help support a good cause, which is valid, and none of us think that they don't do good work. But at some point in time, it becomes a bit of a problem when we have to share all that non-collected tax with everybody else. So. Okay, Councillor Berry.
Yeah, just one more thing, Your Worship. I don't think this is a new concept to them, that they would be eligible if they applied.
Yeah, and they would have been eligible had they applied under how we dealt with this nonprofit and how we have them set up in our tax roll right now.
I don't think this is their only properties that qualify.
Oh, no, they have a lot of properties.
So I'm assuming that they just missed on these ones and didn't on their others.
Okay, so the question is, we have a motion to receive and file, but the question that we're being presented with today is if we're willing to give them the exemption because they were late in requesting they missed the deadline. So, I guess the question would be, are you in favor of the request? All those in favor of the request? All those opposed? Okay. Okay, now we'll vote on the receive and file. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, CAO Ling. You're done?
If I could just ask for an amendment to the motion. It's a motion to receive and file, so if we can do the motion for receive and file, and furthermore, that the request from the Valid Association regarding their tax exempt property on these purchased duplexes be denied.
I would make that motion.
I just have a question. Will that impact, though, the vote, given that it was not unanimous on both?
No, because it's still carried.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of the amended motion made by Councillor Barry? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Director Lefebvre.
Thank you, Worship. The topic is a Vegreville Kinsman Golf Club request. The proposal is to approve the donation of in-kind equipment rentals to Vegreville Kinsman Golf Club. Background: at the June 18, 2024 Legislative Committee meeting, Council reviewed a request from the Vegreville Kinsman Golf Club for the donation of $3,000 in the form of in-kind contributions of town equipment. The Public Works Department used to receive these requests, and upon council approval, would keep a running total of the equipment time spent at the golf course and assess the dollar value in accordance with the town's labor, equipment, and vehicle rental rates. The approval letter sent by the town specified that the availability of the equipment would be at the discretion of the Public Works Manager or foreman, and only requests submitted by the president or vice president of the club would be considered. The letter also specified that the equipment would only be operated by town operators. The financial implications: the town will keep a running total of the cost of the donation utilizing the town's fees and charges bylaw 07-2023 Schedule L, which is the labor, equipment, and vehicle rental rates. Communication strategy is the Vegreville Kinsman Golf Club President Jim Nickel will receive correspondence regarding the council's decision. Upon council approval, the correspondence will contain the same terms of the donation as they have received in the past. A recommendation is being made that town council approves the donation of $3,000 worth of in-kind equipment rentals for the Vegreville Kinsman Golf Club.
Okay, we'll take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Any discussion? I know we discussed this at the Ledge, and it is something that we have typically done over the years. Last year, we didn't have this in place.
It's been several years.
It's several years, so. And they need a lot of help out there right now, so trying to save something that we feel is, or helping to save. There's a lot of members of the community out there trying their best to bring that facility back, so. If there's no other comments, all those in favor of the recommendation? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So one was their letter and one was our recommendation, so.
That's correct.
we
One was
covered
the
them.
letter that was at the legislative committee meeting, and then the recommendations was only read tonight.
Okay, CAO Ling, you got some official stuff to do here now.
All right, so this next item of business is the deputy mayor appointment. So at the organizational meeting held on October 25th, 2021, council decided that each councillor would serve as deputy mayor for a period of 4 months, twice in their 4-year term. Following the schedule presented at the organizational meeting, the next deputy mayor is to be Councillor Gerald Lemko. So the recommendation is that Councillor Gerald Lemko be appointed deputy mayor for the term of June 25th, 2024 to October 28, 2024.
Take a motion for the recommendation from Councillor Barry. Let me just start by saying I'm taking 3 months off. It's gonna be awesome.
Let me guess, you're fishing.
I've gone fishing. Any comments, any worries, concerns, anything that you all may have? Counselor Barry?
Well, I see that it's dated the 25th, so I thought it would have been the 24th, and we would have been doing this earlier, but
You got an extra day.
congratulations.
Okay, all those in favor of the recommendation? Carried. Okay, next up, we have council reports. And let's start with Councilor Lemko. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll serve this community well as deputy mayor in your absence of 3 months. On June 12th, I attended the Minburn Foundation Building Committee meeting. This committee meets every 2 weeks to discuss the status and the moving forward on the application for the new build. This coming Thursday, the building committee will be heading to Red Deer for a meeting there, but also to tour 2 facilities, one in Innisfail and Crimson Villas in Red Deer, as we look at what's going on in the senior housing and what it looks like as we can maybe move forward with some of those ideas in our facility. June 12th, I also attended the Vegreville Stands With Ukraine Committee meeting. It's things have slowed down considerably in the Ukraine, people coming from Ukraine into Canada. What you're seeing now is that the Ukrainians that are here in Canada are moving from province to province or from cities to rural. And we're seeing that 300,000 Ukrainians have settled in Canada under the Kuwait visa. Most of them are, 43% are in Ontario. And Alberta is the second with 21%. It's interesting that there's 10% in Quebec, and there's more Ukrainians living in Calgary than have settled in Quebec. There's 62,000 in Alberta, in 209 communities. And we're seeing requests coming from the cities because of the opportunities in rural Alberta, but the costs of living in the cities is substantially higher than living here. Challenge we have is housing and availability of rentals and jobs that these folks can have. Most are working. The ones that are here in ours, we have a couple fellas who are looking for work but are willing to take anything. So we're out beating the pavement to see if we can help them in some fashion. June 13th, we had the Minburn Foundation meeting, which is our monthly meeting to discuss things at the lodge and what our vacancies look like and what just things going on at the lodge. So June 13th, I also was fortunate enough to come and attend bar for the Rotary Lobster Fest again. A great time. It's good to see the people of the community coming out in droves to support the Rotary in their endeavor. And it was nice to serve and see some people that we haven't seen in a while coming to the bar and saying hello. June 14th, I went to the Homestead Lodge Father's Day barbecue. Well attended by many people in the community. It was a great event and got to sit around and talk with a lot of people. It was nice to see some of there's not a lot of fathers in the facility, but those that were there had their families there. The 24th, that was yesterday. I was at the ASA Teams meeting, so I do that once a month, and they've changed their focus on it's more of the provincial body that is looking at relocating those Ukrainians that are settled in the cities, bigger centers, Red Deer, Edmonton, Calgary, to go to rural locations. They're working on the rural renewal stream and those kind of aspects to get those people settled. So we've only had 2 meetings, and the first one was more of an update on how it's going to work. So our meeting yesterday was just more of all that. And the problems that exist in our community with jobs, language, is the same in all of Alberta. Jobs, housing, language is a barrier. And the getting permanent residency is a nightmare for most of the Ukrainians as it is right now. Hopefully something can be done. And tonight's council meeting, Your Worship, and I am done.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I know you weren't here at the Ledge, but the Rotary Club phoned and they wanted to make a $500 donation for the work that the council did, the bartending, and they wondered what would be our choice. And so we picked the new gazebo at the skate park for the donation.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. June 12th, the Ag Society Board meeting. They've had a couple of events there already that have been very successful, and a lot of events planned for the summer, so they certainly do bring a lot of people into town. That's one thing that I have noticed. June 13th, I was also at Lobster Fest. A lot of people there. I got the privilege of doing flip the coin for heads and tails, but I did manage to escape kissing the cod.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think I disappeared fast enough. June the 18th, Ledge meeting, followed by an RFP review meeting. And then on the weekend of the 21st, 23rd, I volunteered basically all the time. Had one role or another role at the Lakeland Cup soccer tournament. Quite a few families come in from other areas. I do know that they hit a number of the restaurants. And we had 3 teams in there at the U19 girls, U15 girls, and U15 boys. They all medaled, and they're all going to provincials. So it was a very good weekend for Vegreville soccer. And just to show how things are so friendly there, my daughter ended up with the Cold Lake team at Vito's, having supper with them, because she has many friends on that team. And then tonight's council meeting, so that's all that I have for now.
Okay, well, I just want everybody to know how many hours that Councillor Barry has been putting in at the museum. And the largest museums and the archives of the province have been here, and Councillor Barry and our legislative assistant Leslie and have been working tirelessly down there, and things are going very good. A lot of the stuff that the Royal Museum of Alberta would like to have, and the archives, the provincial archives, are taking a lot of stuff and putting it away for us. Plus the fact that you had the Ukrainian village in there, and some of the local people, different displays and stuff. So
The Ag Society and the Cultural Center or association are going to be doing some displays for us on a regular basis.
and Reynolds Museum is.
Reynolds Museum was there as well.
And then you got some days lined up for the local museums.
Some of the local museums will start tomorrow and come tomorrow at noon, at 1 o'clock, and Thursday at 1 o'clock, and Friday at 1 o'clock. And then we'll go into the final phase where we sort out what's left, and we'll announce to the public the next phase at that time. But in the meantime, my therapist has told me that I should stay in denial. It might be healthier.
Well, I just want to say personally, a very good job. And the fact that there's so much interest in some of these larger museums and the provincial archives and stuff like that. So I want the public to know that this is not something that's being done.
Watching the diligence that these provincial museums and archives, how they come through and handle and record and discuss amongst themselves to know the provenance of the various materials. So I try and help them search it up. And I will say also, Leslie has been an incredible assistant in terms of keeping things well documented and keeping us on board. And tomorrow, I'm quite certain the two of us will be appreciating when supper time comes around.
I think Sabrina's helping on that file too, so we better recognize everybody, but I want the public to be well aware that it is being done in a very,
Some of our crews came
professional
out
way.
today and helped load for Hain in the 30s to take the thrashing machine and the binder to go up to be part of their workforce when they do their fundraising to help cancer patients in Northeast Alberta. So that's a very pleasing one to have them involved in taking that equipment.
and just some of the documents that have been housed in boxes at our museum for years and years, knowing full that the provincial archives are taking those, the ones that they feel are very important, and storing them and archiving them for us, something that we just never thought of doing. But I'm glad that you invited them. That's very nice, so. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Curtis.
Thank you. I will start on June 18th with a ledge meeting, and as well after that, the RFP review meeting. And then June 23rd, I went to the Decoration Day. I did a speech with the Legion here in Vegreville. They do Decoration Day, which is kind of it's lost in the annals of history for some areas, but it was the Remembrance Day before Remembrance Day, so it happens in June. And they keep that tradition alive, and they place flags at every soldier's gravesite, and not only in Vegreville, but in other surrounding communities as well. So it was a small service, but I got up there and spoke, and it was nice to see people out and see what it really means to the veterans and the Legion, so it was nice. And the rain held off, so that was good. And tonight's council meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bullock.
Thank you, Mayor. Back on June 11th, we had a ad hoc transportation committee meeting. Update on the Healthy Aging Alberta grant application. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in gaining that. We are shifting our focus to see what we can do more so to help what we have existing in the community right now with VTSS and focused transportation. We also need to remember we have Yellow Rooster in town, and also 2 fine cab companies as well. So we have lots of transportation options. So we are sitting pretty good, and we're just going to see what we can do to help support them even more. Okay. On June 13th, volunteered for Rotary Lobster Fest with my colleagues, Councillor Barry and Councillor Lemko. Had some fun there. Some drinks were spilt on both sides of the table a few times, I'm sure. Then the Father's Day event, attended that with my son and their classic vehicles, and tons of people out for that event. I don't know the numbers on it yet, if the Ag Society has numbers, but stands were full, even though it was a cool day. So a well-attended event. So we're lucky to have that in our community. And once again, when driving around later, the restaurants were packed full. So that was good to see. June 18th, the Legislative Committee meeting, followed by the RFP review meeting. June 19th, we had a Community Futures meeting. A highlight I want to share out of there is the cumulative investment fund by geographical area, $30,777,112. The Community Futures supports in this area. That's 827 loans to small businesses, and it creates 1,672 jobs in our region. So it's just, a lot of people might not know about them, but if you're a small business that may have been unsuccessful with your own bank or something, they are an option to go see, and they can help counsel you through it and see how they can help you out there. And tonight's council meeting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rudick.
Thank you, Your Worship. June 13th, I attended MD Minburn Foundation meeting, and the building committee is doing most of the heavy lifting. So thank you to Councillor Lemko and the other councillors that are bringing that information back and keeping on top of that project. June 14th, I attended the Alberta Muni's Summer Municipal Leaders Caucus in St. Albert. Good opportunity to be able to have some discussion about a variety of topics. They've already provided a follow-up document about some of those conversations about water conservation and making sure that targets are realistic and they're updated and also in the same measurements as we use, for example. The current target has been 195 liters per person per day, and that's largely been achieved across the province, but the new target is 160, which is 10% less than what it currently is. And I believe Director Lefebvre, you said the other day that that works out to 2.2 cubes. Is that wrong?
22.
22, sorry. 22 cubes. So it's not a lot of water if you've got if you use the toilet several times a day, for example, but an important topic given the reality that we're fortunate to have a good supply of water, but for example, it doesn't take much for things to change very quickly, like City of Calgary, for example. And one of the things they talked about is the current target is to maintain a loss at 10%, but the new target is lower. They're encouraging the use of ILI. I don't know what that is. Liter? Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, some of the measurements are not universally understood, as you can see by my poor sharing of the information, but I think one of the things that's helpful there is being able to quantify that across the province. Lots of conversation about the various bills that were brought forward by the province, many of which are going to have some big impacts on municipalities. Some of them are yet to be seen, so there was a lot of conversation about that. And subsequent to that meeting, there was also the announcement that the Executive Director, CEO, Dan Rood, is retiring in December, so he's been there for quite a while. He's been there since I was on Alberta Muni's boards quite some time ago already. So he's going to be retiring, so they're currently starting their search for somebody to replace him. He's got a very good knowledge of what needs to be done. He's got a good finance background, and it's not just doing the executive work for running an organization, the advocacy organization. He also runs the financial part of the business, which provides benefits and supports to municipalities across the province. And June 17th, I hosted a Women in Local Government brunch here in Vegreville, so thank you very much to CAO Ling and the town staff that were able to provide some quick support in setting up the event center. We had councillors and reeves and mayors from Sturgeon County, Beaumont, Kalmar, Two Hills County, Bonnyville, and everywhere in between, so it was great to be able to have a group of elected officials, some of whom have been serving for over 24 years in the room, and have some good frank conversation, and there were some laughs and some tears as we talked about some of the challenges. And just as a reminder, across all three levels of government, provincial, federal, and local government, 31% of elected officials are women. 50% of the population is women, so we're fortunate. This council has always had women on council, and there have been times when it's been more than half, but it is important to continue to keep having women in local government making decisions. So it was a good conversation, and looking a year and a little bit to the next election, making sure that there are new candidates that are going to run of all kinds. So thank you very much to staff for making that possible. I appreciate your help, and everybody that came. There were some that have never been to Vegreville. I also wanted to share something. Our guest speaker, Bev Esslinger, who was a former city councillor from the city of Edmonton, is involved in an organization that disperses returned items to Amazon to volunteer groups. So they collect all of the things that go back to Amazon, from furniture to clothing to everything in between, and they dispense it by the pallet load to volunteer organizations. So if you register with them, she is happy to have anybody, and so she encouraged us here in Vegreville for new residents like our Ukrainian evacuees to Valid and every other organization like that. They are a great organization, and instead of it all ending up in the landfill, they found a way to divert it. So she not only provided some good public speaking points, she also encouraged all of us to be a part of that charity as well. June 18th, Legislative Committee meeting and RFP review. And unfortunately, I was triple booked and could not attend the CALS or the VEGMIN meetings because they're all at the same time as another meeting. But Vegman Learning has hired a new executive director. So the executive director from Two Hills will also be working here. It's a part-time position, and his name is Dave Albright. He has a lot of experience doing adult learning, so he will be starting here. There will be still some programs offered through Vegman through the summer, but most of their programs will be resuming in fall. And June 24th, VTSS meeting, and the current vehicle is at 375,000 kilometers. So it's getting a lot of miles, but have no fear, the new van has been ordered and it will be here hopefully the end of August, beginning of September, to be able to provide the support to the community that they look to very consistently. And there's been some great donations from some of the people that were former board members. So right now they're just collating the list of people that have donated, including the town of Vegreville and the county, for example, that have been good donors for supporting Vegreville Transportation Services Society for many years. But one of the major donors and the major contributor to the purchase of this van is Bob Carter, who used to be one of the volunteers. So he will also have a spot of honor on that vehicle as it comes. And the plan is to be able to have a public event and reveal the van, and I'll invite you when that happens, and tonight's council meeting.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, the water ILI is Infrastructure Leakage Index, which they use to compare different water systems and the water loss that it has. At first, I thought you said LIL, so I typed in water LIL and started learning about water lilies, so I had to flip over and turn the letters around.
Too much information, save some for the next meeting. And I know I was attended the one in Bonneville, and they talked about encouraging Public Works and to monitor when they're flushing and stuff, and just to try to keep track of how much water, there's always going to be water loss in municipalities from breaks and leaks and stuff, but that if we can start monitoring and just trying to be very careful, not just letting her run and not worried about it, so. What else did you do? Or something else that was gonna come? Oh, well, I'll remember.
Women in local government.
Yes, women in local government, I'll remember. Go ahead, look at you, a woman in local government. Go ahead, Councillor Rawawa.
Hi. Basically, I had the same meetings as everybody else. I was at the June 18th Legislative Committee meeting and the June 18th RFP. I did go to the Lobster Fest, but I want to say right up front, I was not volunteering. I was at a table. However, Councillor Barry did mention the heads and tails, and I think I survived 7 rounds and won the heads and tails.
From the other side of the bar, though.
Yeah, I was on the other side of the bar. Although I would like to say a good chunk of the winnings returned itself.
Oh, nice.
It was well returned. But the point with the Rotary, I just wanted to say was, it was, I believe they were sold out at the very end. Of course, a lot of familiar faces, but I also thought there's a lot of unfamiliar faces. A lot of people I didn't know in the room, which I thought was great. And I just, a kudos to people coming out and supporting that group, supporting any groups. But we know right now how really hard it can be for clubs and associations to run events. It's hard to get volunteers. And right now, I think that it started a little bit during COVID, but I think that it has gotten worse since with the cost of living. It's harder and harder to see people paying to go to events. So it was very nice to see that event going, and just always keeping in mind that our Rotary Club is like many nonprofits in one way, but it's also very unique in that the fundraising that they're doing always is coming back into our community in one form or another, as well as the opportunities that they've given for international assistance and the youth that have been able to partake in some of their programs. So just, it was very, very nice to see that amongst the hard time for getting volunteers and the hard time for people for paying to go to an event, to see something sold out in a full room. So it was very, very nice to see. I did not escape kissing the cod, though. So That was a hard one. And then tonight's council meeting. And the only other thing I just want to touch on was a number of our colleagues have spoken about different sporting events that have gone on and how busy it is in town. And I was listening just to a quick radio snippet talking a little bit about our Edmonton Oilers, and they weren't talking about the funds that were happening to anything associated directly with the arena, but they were just talking about from the extension of the time, the extra games that came in, some of the surplus revenue that went to surrounding businesses. And they were talking about it being over $10 million that was seen just in those areas. Now, of course, we're talking about a large scale, but I just think it's always important to keep in mind, because when we discuss recreation or investments from the community into recreation, recreation is often talked about as not being a moneymaker, it's a loser. In the cost to actually operate the facility itself. But I just think it's important to know that as you see us push forward or advocate for these types of sporting events, it's because of these spin-offs that go to not only showcase our community for people to move into, but to support the businesses. And it's another thing we can do to support business. So it's great to hear that we're having people in from all kinds of sports, and I know our council has been very committed to expanding what recreation means to us, to furthering ball for hockey and skating and dance and gymnastics and archery and soccer and all the things in between. So really encouraged to hear that. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. On June the 11th, I attended a meeting, the Northern Alberta Development Coalition. It's an economic development group, and one of the chair right now is MLA from for Wood Buffalo, Tanny Yao. And so basically the region is from the Yellowhead north. And so we're very special in that group, and the similarities that we have with, everybody up the very far northwest part of our province. So I made it very clear to Tanny that no matter what, that it doesn't work for us. I mean, the northeast of Alberta should be its own development group. And so they were taking the information that they received at that meeting back, because just being in grouped in with Northern Alberta, it's just, we don't have a voice in there. We don't have share any of the similarities that what happens in the Northwest and with the huge gas plays up there, or even what's happening in the Wood Buffalo area and stuff. So that was the main part. There was a lot of other communities in our area that were there, and they voiced the same type of opinion. So hopefully they can break it down into a different region. So on the 13th, I attended the Summer Municipal Leaders Caucus, Alberta Meetings in Bonnyville, and it was a good day. There was basically the same agenda that Councillor Rudick had talked about. On the 13th, the John Espatook Water Commission meeting. On the 17th, I had a meeting with our MLA and a gentleman that would like to start some other type of business in town. So it was nice that Jackie, our MLA, come out and had a conversation, and we're both working together with this individual. On the 18th, I met with Minister McIver regarding the Water Commission and some of the ongoing issues that we're seeing, and we're moving forward on some of the advice we received from him. The Ledge meeting, the RFP review on the 20th, Jameson and myself met with, I think, pretty much the whole board, or at least almost the whole board of the Vegreville Kinsman Golf Course, and we're just seeing what grants and helping them identify grants that may work for them and stuff right now. So it's an ongoing thing, and it's nice that they're interested in moving forward with this. On the 23rd, I attended the internment monument unveiling at the Pisanka Park, which was a very big turnout, a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. Well done, and Boris, the main organizer of the big push to have that monument here, wanted me to know about how well our staff supported this whole project, and he was very happy to work with them. And it was a nice event, and it's a very fitting place. for this monument to be. A lot of people don't realize that there was internment camps and people of Ukrainian descent and heritage were put in them. So people come here to learn a little bit at the park. Well, no doubt read that. So, and then yesterday we had a meeting here with Arctic Response. That's the training center that's looking to move to town, and hopefully we're getting a little closer to make an announcement with them, and they want to maybe set up temporarily as they renovate a building or something. So we're very close to that announcement right now. And then tonight's council meeting. And that's what I have. Is there any other business of council? Is there anything I missed? Well, that's pretty good. That being the case, we do have one item in closed session, and it's under Section 25, disclosure harmful to economic and other interest of a public body. So I'll take a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Curtis at 8:03. All those in favor? Carried. We will adjourn for 5 minutes if anybody